Hi everyone, Paul here again in the RoJoBe music shop. Welcome to part 7 of the mountain Dulcimer build project. So I haven't really done very much since the last video on the instrument, but what I have done is I've given it its first coat of boiled linseed oil. So the back and sides, you can't really see any difference. You can in person, but not on the video. But I think you'll agree that the top and the fretboard do look quite a bit different from how they did before. So the boiled linseed oil, apart from all the obvious things, it protects the wood and seals it and everything else, it also makes it look rather nice. I think especially the fretboard. As I said, you can't really see it properly on the video, but in person it looks a whole lot better. And as I said, with the fret dot markers, it has made them stand out a little bit. They're still very subtle, but I quite like that. That's exactly what I want, really. The only downside is it's made this patch that I put in, it's made that stand out quite proudly, but that's okay. I'm quite happy with that. It's not a problem at all. Looks like a feature. And the headstock in particular looks really nice with the boiled linseed oil on, and it's actually darker than the rest of the fretboard. I don't quite know why that's happened, but I quite like it. It looks as though, you know, it's made to look like for the headstock to stand out, and it really does. And I don't know how well you'll be able to see this, but there are kind of different shades of wood in the headstock itself. Particularly, can you see this area is lighter, and a little bit there as well. Moving around to the back, you can see you've got kind of a light patch, and it goes darker over this side. I really like that. It's as I said, it's made it a feature, and I really like it. And that's only one coat of boiled linseed oil, and already it looks amazing, a lot better than it did before in natural wood. And as I said, apart from the obvious benefits of using oil as a finish to protect the wood and preserve the wood, it also, unlike lacquer finishes and shellac and all of those other kind of finishes, those finishes do actually reduce the sound quality on an instrument. Not a great deal, but noticeably so. If you were to leave guitars, etc., without any finish on them whatsoever, acoustic guitars, I mean, they would sound a whole lot better than they do with the finish on. But obviously, the wood's not protected, and you can get scuffs and marks and scratches and all sorts of things. So the lacquer and everything protects the wood, but it also deadens the sound somewhat. Now the oil doesn't do that because it just soaks into the wood and protects it from the inside basically, and you don't lose any of the sound, the volume, because the lacquer, because it dries very hard usually, it reduces the vibration of the wood, so that's why you lose the quality of sound. So we've got one coat of oil on it already. I did that a couple of days ago. I wanted to leave it time enough to dry for doing the job that I'm doing today. But when you apply the boiled linseed oil, you wipe it all over the whole instrument, or in small patches if you prefer, and then you leave it to soak in for a few minutes, and then you wipe off the excess, because once it's soaked in for 5 or 10 minutes or so, it's done as much as it's going to do. So any excess that's on the surface, you need to wipe that off, because it will remain sticky, it'll attract dust, and it'll go dull, and it'll feel all tacky and nasty. So you put the boiled linseed oil on your item, whatever it is, and then after a few minutes you wipe off all of the excess, because it's soaked in as much as it's going to. This will have 2 or 3 or 4 or 3 or 4 more coats, I would think. Probably, yeah, 3 or 4 more coats maybe. I'll see how it looks after the second coat, because it will almost certainly have a third, and then I'll decide from there if it's going to have any more. So now, update on the tuning pegs. Now, I know I have been saying all the way through this project that I want to hand make all of the instrument, apart from the strings and the frets. But I've had a little bit of a change of idea, a change of plan. I'm not going to hand make the tuning pegs from scratch. Instead, I'm actually buying some violin tuning pegs and I'm going to modify those for this instrument. So they'll still be kind of handmade. Now, there are a few reasons for that, which I will explain. First of all, these are the dowels that I was going to use to make the tuning pegs. I've actually got 5 here, just in case I made a mistake. Which I was going to turn on the lathe. Now, first of all, if I just hold it up against my finger, you see it's quite narrow. I would have preferred a little bit thicker so that I could taper the whole thing. So I wasn't overly happy with that. Also, this wood is very, very light. I have a feeling it's not really going to be strong enough, so I'm not going to be making the pegs from these. To be honest, these were my second option. My first option until I got these was making the pegs from the same wood that the fretboard and headstock is made from. So I've got a piece here, which some of you may have seen before. When I first got my lathe and set that up, I was testing, how it worked on a piece of wood, and this is exactly the same wood that the fretboard and the headstock is made from. So I know this is very, very strong wood. Also, it's quite a nice colour. It's kind of a reddish colour, and I don't even know what species of wood it is. I just know it's very strong and durable, stable, durable. So that was my first option, was to make them out of these. But the reason I went to these instead is because there'd be less work with these, just being a bit lazy. But I'm still not going to be making them. I'm going to be, as I said, buying violin tuning pegs, and I'm going to modify those to fit this instrument. I've already ordered 2 sets, in fact, of violin tuners. I've got a set. I've ordered a set in ebony, or it's supposed to be ebony, probably isn't, to be honest. And another set in a wood called RoJoBe wood. Never heard of it. It's probably some Asian wood, locally sourced. And those are a kind of a light to mid brown in colour, so they might match a little bit better. I'm not to say that the ebony ones wouldn't look good, so I've ordered both sets just to see which ones I prefer. And they weren't particularly expensive, so it doesn't matter if I've got a set that I don't use. I mean, they're always handy to have in the shop anyway. Okay, so let's have a look how we're doing for time. Okay, 8 minutes in. So that's the plan for that. Now, I've ordered those pegs today, Monday, but they could be a week to 10 days before they arrive, because they're coming from overseas. I think we all know where from, where everything comes from. Okay, so until those arrive, obviously I can't fit the strings, and I can't make the bridge, because I need the strings on so that I can check exactly where the bridge has to go. So I can't do the pegs, I can't do the strings, I can't do the bridge. What I can do, at least partially, is the nut. So I can mark out where the nut has to go. I can cut the slot, and I can make a nut. I'll just make it tall, and I won't put these string grooves in, because I won't know where the string grooves need to go until the strings are on. I won't know the height of the nut that I will need until the strings are on. But I can make it to the right thickness and the right width across the neck. I can do all that, and then do all the final shaping and sizing when the pegs arrive and I can put the strings on. So, I've got a little tub here with a few little bits and pieces for this instrument. So let's have a look what we've got in here. I've got the strings first of all. So that's going to be my bass string, the middle string, and my two treble strings. I forgot the word. So I've got the 4 strings there, brand new strings. They're guitar strings, and they'll work just as well. In fact, they work perfectly. That's what I use on my Dulcimer builds and you know, fabrications. And so I've got in here. Let's see. So I've got some nut and saddle blanks. Can't see that too well. So I'll show you one at a time. First of all, I've got this saddle blank. It's actually from a guitar. This one's plastic, but I'm gonna use this one because it's nice and narrow. I'm going to use this one, and it's also quite a low profile. So I'm going to use this one to work out where my final bridge is going to go. So I'll use this one as the guinea pig, if you like, to you know, get the right position and height and everything else. But I'm going to make the final bridge or saddle, if you like, out of this piece of bone. Now, the reason I know this is bone, first of all, when you tap this plastic one on a bench, you can hear that dull, plasticky thud. With this one, you get more of a ting. You get the different sound. That's one way, but it's not always a dead cert way to know that it's bone. Another way you can test it is to take a file and just file a little bit of it and then smell it. And you get that distinctive smell which is a little bit like burning hair or burning skin, if you've ever experienced what that smells like. You know, even if you singe the hair on your arm or something, you get that distinct smell. It's kind of a sickly kind of smell, and that's the smell I'm getting there. So just a little file, keeping it flat so I don't ruin my bridge. Yeah, it's got that distinct smell, so that's definitely bone. Now the only downside of this is that it's a radius one. This is from a radius guitar. Now that won't be a problem because I can put this into the slot. And then when I cut the little grooves, or yeah, the little grooves for the strings, again, just tiny indentations, not like in the nut, putting grooves in them, because you don't normally have them in the saddle. Just a little notch to hold the string in place, and then the middle one, I'll do a little bit deeper, so that it's the same height as the other 2 strings. I'll obviously cut it down to length and everything. Now I can do that, or what I have here is an unmolested bone nut or saddle blank. Okay, so it's wide enough this way already. You can see that the thickness is much thicker, so I've got room to play with, and the height of it as well. So that's a blank. That's a bone nut blank or bone nut or saddle blank. So I could make it from scratch from that, but I'll see. So I've got 2 options there. And I've also got another piece of bone here. This is actually an offcut from another saddle, I think, that I made. I think so. And this is also bone, so this is going to be my nut. Okay, now you can see it's nice and straight both ways, and it's flat this way. It's a little bit wider than I need it, but I can always cut it down. So I need to make sure, first of all, that the bottom edge is nice and... I'm going to need my glasses for this. Make sure that the bottom edge is nice and straight and level. I can see a little bit of light coming through there, so that's going to need a little bit of sanding just to make sure that's flat. And the same on the sides. Yeah, same again. I can see a little bit of light coming through, so it's going to need to be sanded flat. Okay, so I think what I'll do is I will make the slot for the nut first. I'll probably do it the same width as this, and then once I get it fitting nicely, I'll cut it to the right length this way. But I'm really not going to do much more than that at this stage, because I want to get the strings on first, so that I make sure that I get everything exactly where it should be, because the top edge is flat, as you can see, so that will need to be curved over. But I might need to put the curve more over to this side or to this side, so that we get, again, the right spacing from this to the first fret. Excuse me. So I'm not going to do any of that until the tuning pegs arrive and I've got those fitted and I've got the strings fitted on, and then I will final detail this. But today I just want to cut the slot that this will fit into. That's it. That's pretty much all I'm going to do at this stage. Just cut the slot in the right place and cut it the right width so that this will fit in there nice and snug. That's all I'm doing now. I'll do all the final detail, as I said, when I get the strings on. Okay, so tools I'm going to need for this job today are my trusty old template again, a pencil, a little ruler, which I'll get in a second, and my fret saw. I can use a different saw, but I like to use this one because the blade is so thin, and you know the teeth are fine on it. I can get a decent precise cut with this. Okay, so let me just put all my little bits and pieces back in there. Also, these are the little pearl dots that I found the other day. I've only got 4 of them. I so wish I had 5 and I would redo those, but that's something I can do later, not a problem. So I'll put all those back in there, put the strings back in. So, whenever I'm doing projects like this, obviously I need bits and pieces of hardware, you know, strings and things, and I always put them in a little pot like this. I get everything together I'm going to need, put it in a pot, put the lid on, and then I know where everything is, and I haven't got to keep finding it, and you know, everything's in there as and when I need it. Okay, so let's make a start on this. I did actually off camera as well, that nut that I've just showed you, I did measure it more precisely with my micrometer all the way along the width of it and the height as well, and it's very consistent. I mean, it's the width of it is from one end to the other, there is 0.1 of a millimeter difference, and the height about the same. It's, you know, from one end to the other there's a difference of about 0.1 of a millimeter. I don't really think that's, you know, too much to worry about, so you should be fine. But as I said, the final shaping will be done once the strings are on. Okay, we're up to 18 minutes, so I need to crack on. Okay, so let's just angle you down here so you can see what I'm doing. Get all those dowels out of the way. Okay, so what I need to do first of all, using my template, is measure once again from the first fret. So I've got this first mark on the first fret there, and then I can't really get you much closer than that, unfortunately. And then, so I put this mark directly down the middle of the fret, not to the front edge or the back edge, but directly down the middle. And then this mark here for the nut, I'm going to this inside line. So I'll mark a line at each end and then do a line across, and I'll check it again, and then I'll start to make the cut and I'll check it again. You know what I'm like? I need to make sure I double check it, triple check it, and quadruple check it if necessary. Okay, so I'm lining this line up with the center of the fret. Okay, and then I want I mark this side and I mark that side. Now you're not going to be able to see that, so actually I can use this. Okay, so if I hold that supposedly square against the side of the fretboard, I can already see that if I drew that straight across like that, that would not line up with this line for the nut. Which tells me one thing, which I already knew anyway, is that the frets are all just slightly, they're not perfectly parallel with the edge of the fretboard. They're all slightly sort of to one, down on one side, but by about 0.5 millimeter. So they're all like that, so the nut needs to be like that, and the saddle will need to be like that as well. But that's absolutely not a problem. It's not going to make any difference whatsoever to the intonation, the playing, or anything. I mean, if they were, you know, 1/4 of an inch out all the way down, that would cause some problems. But as it is, absolutely not a problem. So I'm just going to use this set square as a straight edge. I'm not going to use this, and I'm going to go very carefully, join those marks up, make the line, and then I will measure again to check again. Okay, let's just have a look at that. So on the center of the fret, okay, that looks good. Now, when I start to make the cut with the fret saw, I am going to go slightly this way of the mark, only very, very slightly, because if I try to cut directly on the line, I may end up with the inside edge being just a little bit too close to the fret, and then I can't change it. I can't add wood back on there. I could, but it's not going to work. So I would rather go slightly long than slightly short, and if it does end up just slightly long, I can file it back. I can creep up on it so that I get the exact right position. Because you know, this is the most crucial part. If you've got the distance between your nut and your first fret wrong, that's not going to play right. Neither's that, neither's that, neither's that. All the way up there, it's all going to be out. Actually, the further you get up the fretboard, the more it will compensate itself. But certainly the first one will be completely out. And it's, you know, you generally use this end of the fretboard more anyway. So this has to be exactly right. So I'm going to cut it, as I said, just slightly long. Okay, I've got about 5 minutes of video left. Okay, let's just, I'm going to use this actually to give me some straight edge. Right, I've just made a mark with the saw. I'm going to check it again one more time. Yeah, and already I can see it's come too far this way, so we need to start that again just slightly further back. I'm going to get my small ruler for this job. A little 6-inch ruler, much easier to use because there's no weight to it. Okay, let's try that. That looks better. Yeah, I'm happier with that. So I moved that over by probably less than 0.5 millimeter. I mean, I moved it over so little that you can't actually see the original mark I made. But it made enough difference. Right, just check again before we go any further. Okay. I would say that is bang on the money. Okay, so I'm going with that. If it isn't now, it's too late. Check one more time. No, it's too late to change it now, but I just wanted to double check. That's good. I'll just see if I can kick this end over slightly. Okay. And check again. That's looking good. Happy with that. Now I'm going to cut this quite a bit deeper than the fret slots were, because I want the nut to sit in quite deep. But I'm going to take my nut blank, just see how deep I've gone for now. Right, I'm going to say that's deep enough for now. I don't want to go any deeper than that. Now the next thing I need is the width. So again, this is quite tricky. I've got to make sure I get this absolutely precise, because again, if you cut it too big, you can't add wood. If you cut it too small, you can always take some away. Let's just measure that. I think it's easier to measure it first, and that's just a hair over 3 mil. So I'm going to do this at 3 mil. I can see that, Mark, come on.